So, I am talking to two fan bases here in this video. Let's talk to the Canadiens folk and the New Jersey Devils folk as well. Interestingly enough, I'm just realizing that both of these teams drafted in the top 2 of the recent NHL Entry Draft, but today I wanted to go over yesterday's game between Team Slovakia and Team USA. Of course, it's World Junior Talk here on the channel, and we're going to be starting up a lot of videos talking about the individual storylines and all the stuff popping around from this tournament. But what I wanted to talk about firstly was this game right here. 6-3, Team Slovakia takes it over the Americans in a game that a lot of people said was somewhat of an upset. You got Team Canada losing their first game with a 5-minute headshot against Team Czechia, and Team USA losing as well against a Slovak team that I think a lot of people kind of underestimated coming into the tournament. And just thinking about how much better the Slovaks could have been had Juraj Slafkovsky been allowed to participate, it kind of gets me excited as to the future of Slovak hockey in the NHL. But either way, the game was 6-3 Slovakia, and you could see some of the post-game interviews, players talking about how they're playing for themselves and not for the team, how they need to improve and get a little bit more cohesive as the tournament goes along. But what I wanted to talk about were two defensemen that were kind of making, I don't want to say they're headlines. There weren't really headlines made about these two guys. There were just kind of a lot of conversations I had seen popping around both of these players from their respective fan bases. We're talking about defenseman Luke Hughes out of the New Jersey Devils system, the captain of the American team, and we're also talking about his line mate towards the end of the game as they were losing, Montreal Canadiens second-round pick Lane Hutson. Now, if you search either of these two guys' names on the channel's history, you'll find a ton of videos going over just how good Luke Hughes is, whether or not he's going to be better than Quinn, better than Jack, and a ton of other videos going over Lane Hutson, talking about how this guy was outproducing players like Adam Fox and Quinn Hughes in his rookie NCAA year. Both of these guys on the Devils and the Canadiens have so much hype surrounding them, and in yesterday's game, you kind of had some discourse going around on both of these guys that I thought was interesting to note. Now, before going over the actual game itself, let's just go over the numbers right here. Both these players, Hughes and Hutson, have 1 point on the entire tournament in 2 games played. Luke Hughes has a goal, that in which he scored in the first game of the tournament. It was a beautiful shot where he absolutely loaded up from the blue line and unleashed it towards the goal. And Lane Hutson had himself an assist in yesterday's 6-3 loss, where he threw the puck on goal from the blue line and it was tipped in by Gavin Brindley. However, when it comes to the other goals that were scored not by Team USA but by Team Slovakia, there were a few plays where Lane Hutson kind of was on the receiving end of a bad shift. Plays that led to Slovakia goals that Hutson was directly a part of. Either he takes a shot that gets blocked and it leads to a rush the other way, or he's just kind of caught in the worst spot to be in as the puck got moved around by the Slovaks. And I saw a lot of people calling out Hutson in particular, saying things like, hey, this is the guy that Canadiens fans were so hyped up about. This is the player they're looking to see better production than Adam Fox and Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar out of. This guy, what in the world is he doing? Sure, he's got an assist in this game, but he's been a part of so many Slovak goals against. It's kind of unbearable to watch. Then you have the other people talking about Luke Hughes in the same way, saying that this guy had a few bad plays here and there, especially in his own zone. This wasn't really the show-me game that gets a lot of people excited for Luke Hughes in the way that he's performing. Now, sure, Luke had a few nice moments in this game particularly, where he took the puck in his own end, skated it up through the neutral zone, and then skated it even more in the offensive zone before making a very nice pass into a great scoring chance for his guys. Lane Hutson, as we said, had an assist. So even though both of these guys were doing good offensive things, they were still on the receiving end of some pretty harsh discourse, I feel, when it comes to analyzing, or dare I even say microanalyzing, the defensive parts of their games. Now, I get it, this is the chance to go out there and do that because all the prospects are on the same stage, they're playing against competition that is as similar to them as it's going to get for a very long time. But at the end of the day, it was really intriguing to me to note the discourse going around about these two players. I saw a lot of people comparing the two, actually. And I don't know if Canadiens fans are just going out there and being a little bit brash for the sake of being brash, but I saw way too many threads on Twitter yesterday discussing whether or not Lane Hutson was going to be a better prospect or a better defenseman in the NHL than Luke Hughes because of the game that we had seen yesterday where Hutson had an assist and Hughes had some bad rushes. And this is kind of why I used that word micro-analyzing earlier in the video, because both Devils and Canadiens fans were really going at it the other day, just talking about the defensive deficiencies of both of their guys. Now, just to set the record straight, because we're on the topic and I figured that some of y'all might want to know my opinions about this, not that my opinion really matters more than yours, it's just kind of, it's kind of my show. I feel like when it comes to both of these guys, it wouldn't really surprise me if, let's say, one day Lane Hutson has an NHL season that is, dare I say, more offensively productive than Luke Hughes. Like, if Hughes goes out there and maxes out to his ceiling, I feel like he's got 65, 70-point potential in the NHL consistently, year in and year out, especially playing on a power play that includes his brother, Jesper Bratt, Alexander Holtz, and a few other guys you could throw in there as well. Hutson, while not guaranteed to being in that same tier, definitely has a ceiling that I think mirrors that of a Luke Hughes in terms of offensive output alone. However, when you talk about defensemen, you have to also talk about defending. And Luke Hughes, by the nature of him being just bigger than Lane Hutson, is probably in a safer boat to say he's likely going to be a more effective defender in his own zone than Hutson is long-term. Now, that's not to say that Hutson cannot develop the proper defensive tools to be capable in his own zone at the top level in the world. It's probably easier for a guy like Luke to develop those skills and hone it, especially since his two older brothers are his two older brothers. I mean, scrimmaging around with Quinn Hughes and Jack Hughes is probably going to do a number to your defensive capabilities, and I think Luke Hughes, just exhibiting that for most of his life, has that upper hand on Hutson. As for the World Juniors, I mean, these guys are both at a point on the season right now, or not on the season, but on the tournament. They both came off of what I would say is a pretty bad game against Slovakia, defensively speaking at least. And so as the tournament goes on, we're going to have to see a little bit more clamping down of not just either one of these guys, but of the whole team in and of itself. The Americans towards the end were just kind of throwing everything at the wall, and you could even see Hughes and Hutson playing on a pair together, which is kind of nuts and kind of chaotic, but it was very interesting to watch as it was happening, and I actually kind of want to see that happen again, just so Canadiens fans and Devils fans will get even more pissed off at each other talking about who's better or who's worse. Just kidding. Am I kidding? I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's a very intriguing idea, just seeing what both of these guys have been capable of so far, how they both have moved around the offensive zone with some pretty good finesse. However, there is a lot of improvement to be made on the defensive rushes and in their own zone too. It's only been 2 games, so I'm not worried. And of course, one, let's say 5, 6, 7 game stint at the World Juniors, that's not going to define one player's entire career, so maybe chill out with the expectations versus reality thing, calling anybody a bust or whatever just because of one game. But still, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, what your opinions were about these two guys and the performances they had against Slovakia. I saw way too many people talking about both of these guys, which is why I felt this video was necessary to make. And I feel like when everything is said and done, we're probably looking at two guys that finish the tournament off at the very least 5 points, 6 points on the tourney. Let's say they play 7 games and they get 6 points. I feel like that's a pretty realistic expectation for both Hughes and Hutson, considering their offensive capabilities and what each of them have been doing at Michigan and BU so far. But talk in the comments either way all your thoughts. If you're a Devils fan, how do you think Luke Hughes played so far throughout the tournament? And if you're a Canadiens fan, what are your thoughts on Lane Hutson? I'd prefer for the comment section to be civil, so nobody going out there lambasting the opposing team's prospects just because you like yours a little bit more. But hockey fans are hockey fans. Y'all are going to talk about whatever it is y'all are going to end up talking about. So let me know in the comments all your thoughts about these two players in the World Juniors so far. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.